Okay, so I'm going to talk you through some of the resources that I've gathered in this blend space that might help um, students with this unit on the giver. I've started this first square with a trailer from the giver. The intention of this is to just preview the material and get kids engaged in what they're about to be reading. The second square is an anticipation guide that I made to help frame the understanding. One of the problems I found with this book is that kids are super confused because the author creates this setting that's unfamiliar, as many science fiction authors do. So I have added this pause to read a short story called All Summer in a Day. And I included two versions of the story on this blend space. One is a PDF of the story with lots of questions and ways to engage kids in their reading and thinking. And this fourth square is, I took the same document and I put it in a Google document so that kids who need to hear the audio can use this document instead, because the PDF, the screen readers were running into trouble with it. So I have it in two forms there. At the conclusion of this story, I wanted to ask kids to create a storyboard of what they read to demonstrate their understanding of the story, and also have them focus on setting. I started an example of that in frame 6 just to play with it and get kids going. Square 7 is about, it's not a square, rectangle 7, quadrangle 7 is about an open response, just to make sure that they understand what I'm trying to teach them about setting so that they're prepared to read The Giver. The Giver is a utopia, or is set up as a utopia, and so I wanted kids to think about in groups what that means, and I've created a Padlet for the 8th box to capture that discussion and thinking. The 9th is a vocabulary preview, and I included images to help those visual learners attach their understanding to something. The text I included in box 10. And I also, someone kindly had posted audio, and Lois Lowry kindly allowed it to remain, at least for now. So I've connected the audio in 11 so that kids who need to hear and listen at the same time can use this tool. The first chapter is confusing of the book, and so I created this back channel so that as we're reading it aloud in class, kids can be tagging ways that the setting is different in the story than the setting of our own world, and also to include any questions that they might have. Again, as a way to engage, and also just some assessment along the way to check their understanding and respond to where they're confused. I put a couple of activities in here that I'll do in the first chapters of the book to try, as Hardiman suggests, to try to get kids to identify with the main character, to not see the main character as separate from themselves. So there's a self-portrait drawing activity, there's a tableau activity. And then here's my only concept map in box 15. It is the learning that I'm hoping kids will attain in the big picture of the importance of memory. If I click on this, will it open? So, loading. So the big picture is the importance of memory, and then I want kids to think about it in terms of globally, in terms of the importance of memory to authors and also to ourselves. So there's a map of that learning. Um, and the learning is here. I wanted them to look at a medical historian who was talking about Ebola on NPR. He's exactly like the giver in the story. It's a great parallel. So I have that story. And then I found this text and photographs from an exhibit that was at the Exploratorium in San Francisco about Nagasaki. And I thought that was a good parallel with what's happening with the negotiations with Iran, um, and the current state of those affairs. Um, and so I wanted to connect them with two current news articles, which I'm going to wait to pull until we do this unit because those stories are both evolving. And then 19 is a box. I haven't made this graphic organizer next, but I will create something to help kids make the bridge between the memory and the current policy. So that's how I want to get at memory, global memory. And then memories go more personal in box 20. So there's just a graphic that I wanted to review with kids. And then I made this really small. Oh, a graphic organizer to set up this thing link that I had a really fun time making. Is that what I did? Oh dear. Oh, no. This is a graphic organizer to help students pull the memories that authors have in making their fiction texts. So Lois Lowry speaks directly to that in relation to The Giver. And then there's a great piece on Walter Dean Myers that I wanted to use also. But I still need to create the graphic organizer to connect that learning. And then I wanted kids to get into their own personal memories. And I wanted to do that in two ways. One, to focus on one photograph and the sensory details of that memory. And so that's 24. And then 25, oh, that's the graphic organizer that will help them create their own, which I didn't create yet. And then here's a rubric for that I created. And here's the site to use. And here's how kids will submit their thing link. And then, oh, this is also from the Exploratorium exhibit on memory. People talking about their earliest memories, which is just to get kids thinking about a timeline of their own life, which is box 30. And then there's a couple of mentor texts that I pulled that I thought were, I hope, good, that kids will enjoy, and we'll go through them and pull sensory details. And then they need a graphic organizer to create their narrative essay. But I want to talk to the 7th grade teachers about what they used because they do a narrative essay in 7th grade. So I left that off for now. Here's a rubric for that essay. A peer review sheet, which I grabbed from the National Council's Teachers of English website because they had a similar activity related to The Giver. And then I want kids to post their stories on StoryCorps. And then I want them to revisit the anticipation guide. And I want to think about a way to get at their learning at the end, which I think I'll have them record something just as an alternate means of assessment since they've done a lot of writing. Here's how the unit plan lines up in to the brain targets. And here is my Symbaloo, which actually isn't my unit, but I made a Symbaloo that I'm going to put on the homepage of the computers in my classroom of resources that I've now gathered, which I'm super excited about. And then this is the sample student that I created for class, but mostly I've just come down on the side of if you have really good design, you're going to meet everyone's needs. So this unit revision was an attempt at that. Okay, thanks, bye.